about dermatology conferences by Dr. Dipankar Banerjee. Can't agree more. Same in all medical field I feel. I get high on medical conferences. I am from the medical profession specializing in the field of dermatology. Dermatology is a profession which thrives on conferences. One conference fades into another. Like our country, which is perpetually on election mode, dermatology is perpetually on a conference mode, each patting their back about how successful their conference was. Our annual conferences were a grand affair. Knowledge, food, entertainment, venue, a heady cocktail of the best. Always look forward to. Planning started much in advance. And every year, post-conference, we came back bloated with food, entertainment, and a little knowledge which lasted till the next conference. Got introduced to medical conferences soon after doing my PG. Initially, I was very serious in approaching a conference, would be in the venue on time, and would be the last person to leave the hall. Take notes and collate them once back to the room. Plan the next day's speakers. The first day, CME Day, was a one-hall affair, so nothing much running about to do. You collect your coffee and get mesmerized by the amount of knowledge overflowing in the hall. One of the earlier conferences which I have vivid memories was the International Conference at Ashoka Hotel, New Delhi. Those were the halcyon days. Speakers were too good, so was the ambience, and the entertainment was wide-eyed at the lavish spread of food. I became a die-hard fan of conferences. Amjad Ali Khani, remember, that while tuning up his sarod, got irritated and rebuked the waiters who were putting up and clanking plates for dinner at the background, and then he rendered his recital to perfection. Then it dawned on me, as I gained experience attending conferences, that there was a recurring pattern. The same speaker discussing the same topic, just changing the locations and shuffling through slides. Sometimes they seemed disoriented, as evidenced by their first slide on the presentation, where they had forgotten to update the venue information. There was no original research being presented. The so-called new ideas were simply rehashed versions of what had already been published in Western literature. It took me some time to realize that national conferences served a different purpose. They were primarily for socializing, networking, and making connections. If you wanted to gain knowledge, you were better off exploring other avenues. Conferences were more about indulging in the excitement and extravagance, rather than focusing on intellectual growth. I remained deeply intrigued by specific speakers, particularly those who recounted their first-hand accounts of utilizing innovative drugs or techniques within their own practices. These individuals adeptly merged elements from Western literature and practices with Indian sensibilities, imparting a wealth of knowledge upon me. Some speakers concentrated more on putting some funny caricature on their slides. The caricatures really were very well thought about. Hoped their scientific content was also as well thought about as their funny caricatures, as it took the attention away from the main content. Some speakers who took the podium were an expert in that field, striving to bring knowledge from the lab table to the bedside. They spoke with authority, quoting from their own experience. No frill slides. In fact, the slides were simple black and white. Then there were a set of speakers who copied verbatim from books, unaware that the audience they were talking to were not PG students. Some faltered on the slides. You could make out it was made by his residents. Then over the years, people became so-called topical experts. They caught hold of one topic, mainly on which they had written their thesis, and expanded and proliferated like the East Indian Company, on the opium trade, not a morsel of original research or ideas. Sister societies evolved into topical societies, and once the international journals and papers became available at the touch of a finger, the halo of knowledge began to fade. The worst speakers were the ones who had conflict of interest. They had sold their soul to the pharma industry, which did not have any conscience. Pharma industry was profit-driven. They always had their pound of flesh at the expense of patients. Some speakers had the zeal of mentorship in them. The way they used to teach the newbies whenever they put up a query to them was a pleasure to watch. They explained it so lucidly in the corridors of conferences or wherever you could accost them. They never needed a podium. I always stood at the fringe and listened to them. There was a group of doctors, hats off to their dedications and zeal for knowledge. They were always sitting in the front rows, oblivious of everything, drinking in every word of the speaker, taking notes, and at the end of day, their conference bags were full of knowledge, and not from the curios from the exhibition area. But this lot is now becoming an endangered species. The audience, some came to politicize. You be sure that this guy is standing for some organizational posts. When someone whom you have never met suddenly tries to be friendly, or you start getting unsolicited messages on your WhatsApp from unsaved numbers. Then there is another group of audience who hardly enter the halls. They are more interested in freebies and collecting gift tokens from the exhibition stalls. At the end of the day, they are duck-walking laden with bags. You have to separate the bags to find as to whether you are addressing the right chap. Then there is a group of participants. They come on the first day to register and last day to collect the CME certificates. Then off sightseeing with the family. Conference is a big break for them from their busy private practice. Of late, a good step has been taken where the accompanying person is not allowed inside the hall. Once out of inquisitiveness, I tried to attend the so-called GBM, where important decision about the administrative function was taken. I was surprised as to why people fought to become the host city. Was it for prestige? Was it for augmenting the profession? Or there was more to it that meets the eyes? Well, it was better to leave a sleeping dog lie. I was impressed by the doctors who sat in the GBM when wonderful lectures were simultaneously taking place in the halls. Always wondered if they must have attained nirvana in dermatology. The best part of the conference was the national quiz. It was a real enriching experience and was a sight as we saw the young PG students spar off wonderfully crafted questions by the quizmasters. Half of the questions, the veterans had no clue, but we sat grim-faced as if we knew everything, like an impression given by a clueless examiner when he does not know the answer given by the student is right or wrong, but sagely nods his head.
I have never attended international lectures, but I found the orations in our conferences just a LinkedIn profile of the speaker with his or her achievements. During the oration time, other halls came to a standstill. It was the best time to go to the poster presentation area. Initially, I was enamored by the freebies doled out by the pharma companies as I wanted to impress my spouse when I got back. I used to collect the junk, even the flyers, and read them. In fact, we had to collect 2 sets of each freebie, one for our respective consultant. I just left going to the exhibition center as I saw through the marketing gimmick of the pharma chaps. Only the bags served their purpose. Now with app-based marketing, the bags are now a pass. The Galderma bag was the most coveted souvenir. It was so much in demand that people used to line up like a new product launch in an Apple iStore. They even punched out your ID card so that you do not come back for a second one. I still wonder what was so enticing about the bag that people got attracted to. Now the pharma companies have become more stringent on their freebies after the new rules have kicked in. As a result, the footfall has dropped significantly in the exhibition areas. The chairpersons were sometimes too good, short, crisp, sticking to time. Some were so obnoxious that if the speaker had 20 minutes, they would gobble up 10 minutes. Some taking time to introduce themselves. If you are from a government institution, participating as a chairman was the easiest way. You even got a plaque. The fascination for the topics changed, especially among the youngsters. It shifted from clinical to cosmetic surgery, not even cold steel surgery. Dermatology took a turn. It became industry-driven. The idea was, if you had spent crores for getting your PG seat, it was time to reap it back with vengeance. Clinical dermatology was dying because it was not paying. Only a gratitude from a patient would not fill your stomach, except for a few fossilized stalwarts who religiously attended clinical lectures, sat in the first few seats, always took notes, and it was a pleasure seeing their appetite for knowledge. Now, anything to do with cosmetic dermatology like lasers, fillers, peels will have the hall bursting at its seams as we enter the race to pump up the wealthy and beautify the healthy. Attended a few workshops and found the doctor as dysmorphic as the patient. A perfect normal smile, convincing the patient that it is crooked, perfectly normal wrinkles, counseling for hours to wipe it out. The patient lying still for hours to get their new crop of hair. But that is where the mullah was. The workshops were bursting at seams, but I am hopeful dermatology, like life, will come full circle. Clinical derm satisfies your soul, while cosmetic derm your pocket. Evening gala dinner is one of the talking points of the conferences. Actually, now sometimes the accommodation is a little far away from the venue, so some guys just stay back till the whole procedure ends. It is a sight. The drinks, the food, the dances, the entertainment by bigwigs, all flows and are in plenty. Massive extravaganza. You feel you are in a Mughal court. So after the first day of gala dinner, the next day, the hangover makes you late reaching the conference venue. By the second day, the spices and curry and the spirits have taken their toll. You yearn for a simple dal roti and pray for the conference to end. After the first few conferences, I got the trick. Migrate towards the counter with plain dal and tawa roti and whole fruits if it was not cut. If you wanted to survive the gastronomic onslaught of 3 days of day and night feasting. The accommodation, being in a government job, we always scrounged in some government mess or guest room. I was surprised to see the fresh graduates attending the conferences bragging about their 3-star accommodations, private pickup, and drop vehicles. I remember one conference, the dancing went on late into the night. When I came out of the venue, as the private taxis whizzed past, I had to trudge back on foot. I always wondered about their paying capacity, but later learned that there was more to it that meets the eyes. This section was a mine house of information, but you had to dig them out. Unique cases, unique presentations, very neatly made. You could spend hours in this section, especially skipping the heavy lunch, because the next day a new set replaced the old. Then came the e-posters. Suddenly the number of conferences proliferated like the hairlocks of Medusa. One main body just proliferated into a number of sister societies like a chapter in a book. Each topic became a topical society. Each chapter in a book became a new society, became a SIG, and each sister society had their own sister conferences. Each conference merged into another throughout the year. For me, I stopped attending conferences after COVID. It taught us you do not need such elaborate paraphernalia to gain knowledge. You need a laptop and net. You gain knowledge anytime and anywhere. It was a colossal waste of resources to attend such extravaganza. But I also realized we human beings were social animals, conference animals, who were so long caged by the epidemic, just wanted physical conferences to be back with a bang. I tried to understand the itch, but could not. Perhaps everyone is wired differently.